Toxic logic. Confusion is at the heart of the narcissistic dynamic. Confusion causes several things to happen. You provide fuel far more readily. You submit to our control. You are easier to manipulate. You blame yourself. You cling on tighter, and you do not move forward. Confusion reigns during devaluation. Confusion abounds post-escape, and especially post-discard. Confusion keeps appearing during the hoovers, which inevitably take place. The creation of confusion is a must for us if we are to keep our grip on you and achieve our aims. How many times have you said any of the following? Why is he doing this? I don't understand why one moment she is fine and the next she is a howling banshee. Why does he get so angry over nothing? Why won't he leave me alone? I cannot work out what is wrong. What's the matter? What have I done wrong? Why won't you tell me what is the matter? What was that for? What did you say that for? Why did you just do that? These are all the common responses of victims who do not understand what is happening to them. This is because each and every single one of them is looking at the situation through their own worldview and is accordingly applying their own logic to the situation. They are doing so in a skewed fashion because that logic is heavily tainted by emotion, which impairs clarity of thought. Not that our kind would complain about that. One of the central planks to understanding the narcissistic dynamic is to understand our toxic logic. This is so called because the effect of the application of our logic is that it has a toxic effect on you. Once you understand this toxic logic, you will make considerable advances into understanding why we behave as we do, why we say the things we do, why we react in the fashion that we do, and why it impacts on you in such a fashion. You will not like this toxic logic. You will find it abhorrent, but it is not necessary for you to like it. What you must do is apply it. When you look at a situation adopting your worldview, it is akin to staring into the dark of the night and looking into a forest. You may be able to see the trees because of the moonlight. You see lots of shadows, but you cannot spot the man that is lurking there, training a gun on you. Apply night vision goggles to that situation, and all of a sudden, you can see much more as they catch the infrared section of the light spectrum, and you can see the assassin clearly. Applying the toxic logic is the equivalent of switching to night vision. You will notice things that have been there all along. You will understand why we have responded in a certain way, which has previously been a complete mystery to you. Let us take the dinner table example. You have made dinner. You serve the 4 guests first, place a plate for yourself on the table, and then serve your narcissist last. He knocks the plate to the floor, spilling the food and breaking the plate. Your guests gasp. He stares at you, glowers, and you watch, shocked and puzzled, as he storms off from the dining room. Why on earth did he just do that? 15 minutes later, he returns, sits down, and converses with you and the guests as if nothing has happened. How can he do that after such a display? Looking at it from your worldview, you serve the 4 guests first because that is polite. You then served yourself because your place setting was nearest to the food, so that was practical. You served the narcissist last because he was furthest away. And also you gave him more than the others, since you didn't have to save any of the food for anybody else, since everybody else had been served. The evening had been proceeding in a friendly and pleasing fashion, with everyone enjoying themselves. There is, from your worldview, no reason at all for this sudden display of temper. He returns with no apology or sense of embarrassment at his behaviour, and continues as if he has just been to the bathroom or to answer the door. He is pleasant and charming to both you and the guests. Again, from your worldview, you are left puzzled by this behaviour. Who on earth behaves like that? Now, you apply the toxic logic, and the reason is all too clear. By serving the narcissist last, you told him through this action, which was not accompanied by any fuel, that he was not important. This was a criticism. This wounded him. His self-defense response to this wounding was the ignition of his fury. He could not keep it under control because of the type of narcissist that he is. The fury therefore manifested as heated fury. He tipped the plate to the floor, spilling the food and breaking the plate. This caused drama and had all eyes on him. The guests were taken aback, and their gasps of surprise and shock provided him with emotional attention, thus fuel. Your stunned reaction also provided him with fuel. He then walked out, drawing further emotional reaction from everybody assembled, and in another room he's been able to draw on the thought fuel as he imagines the ongoing reaction to his outburst. All of this fuel goes to the repair of the narcissistic wound that he has suffered. His fury will abate, and he will return at some point as if nothing has happened. Indeed, he returns, fury abated, and is able to switch back without any show of concern, and is thus charming and pleasant. He then draws positive fuel from all those he is engaging with. Out of politeness, nobody mentions the incident, no doubt fearing a repeat performance. This is but one example amongst millions that normal, healthy people and empathic, healthy people just cannot understand. Internally, those who witness the incident may be anxious, puzzled, pleased that it is over, wondering what caused it, wary of it happening again, and a whole host of other thoughts. None of them will actually understand why it happened. It is only the application of the toxic logic that allows you to understand it. So, what is this toxic logic? I shall explain the main principles behind it. As you read these principles, I know you will be thinking such thoughts as, but that's insane. That's ridiculous. Why live like that? Can't he or she see how crazy that looks? Remember, it only appears that way because you are applying your own worldview to these principles. In order to understand and apply the toxic logic, you have to let go of your logic for the time being and just accept that these are the principles we operate by. As I mentioned before, it is irrelevant whether you like them or agree with them. You should not feel any need to challenge them. You should just accept that this is the way that it is. And once you do that, you'll grasp why we are as we are. These are the principles of our toxic logic. 1. Fuel is everything to us. It governs everything we do, whether by instinct or by calculation. 2. Nothing is ever our fault. Nothing at all. 3. We are entitled to do what we want, when we want, where we want, how we want, and with whom we choose. 4. You are the competition. 5. Everybody is an appliance that yields fuel. 6. If you do what we want, you are good. 7. If you do not do what we want, you are bad. 8. There is no middle, no grey, no in-between. 9. The end always justifies the means. 10. We have no concept of remorse, guilt, or a conscience. 11. The world is against us. 12. Anything that blocks, defies, challenges, or calls into question our superiority is a criticism, if it is done without providing fuel. 13. We hate criticism. 14. Criticism wounds us and ignites our fury. 15. We must control our environment. Control is paramount to us. 16. We do not recognize boundaries. 17. We have no empathy. 18. We mimic and copy to pretend that we have certain emotions and feelings. 19. We lie repeatedly. 20. Fuel is everything to us. That is worth repeating. This logic is toxic because the outcome is that you are manipulated. We abuse people, we use people, we trample on people, and do so without any concerns at all for that person's well-being. You will be considering such behaviour and outlook as odious and reprehensible, and coming from an empathic individual, that is entirely understandable. Let us apply the toxic logic to another scenario. You send your narcissist a text message asking when he will be coming home. You receive no reply. You text again, no reply. You ring. There is no answer. Your narcissist eventually appears at 2 a.m. when you are lying still awake in bed. There is no apology, no explanation, and he says nothing to you but gets into bed and falls asleep. You are left worried, bewildered, and upset. From your worldview, you cannot understand why he did not respond to a perfectly reasonable text message. You cannot understand why he did not tell you he would be late. You know of no reason why he would stay out so late and not warn you. You find it hurtful and upsetting, and you are confused because he is meant to love you, and if someone loves you, then they do not behave this way. I have heard such comments many times. Now, apply the toxic logic. The narcissist is entitled to do as he pleases. Thus, if he wants to stay out, he can. The narcissist is never to blame. Therefore, he feels no compulsion to warn you he will be late, to apologize for returning late, or to offer any explanation. Your text message sought to exert control over him. You are the competition. This is prohibited conduct. The text message was not accompanied by fuel. By suggesting that he was beholden to you, this amounted to a perception of criticism by the narcissist. He felt wounded. Some narcissists might control the fury that is ignited, and they might have answered. This narcissist could not. His response was cold fury through a silent treatment, hence the failure to reply and answer the phone. He gained thought fuel, knowing that you would be concerned and worried at his failure to reply, and worried at him staying out late. This fuel healed the wound and abated the ignited fury. He was justified in treating you in this fashion because he is entitled, and the end always justifies the means. Further, fuel is everything. Thus, when looked at from the narcissist perspective, applying the toxic logic, everything makes perfect sense to him, but viewed from your perspective, it will not. The toxic logic will repeatedly explain to you why we suddenly erupt, go silent, suddenly apply the golden period again, why we carry on like normal afterwards, why we never apologize, or if we do, it is a false apology, and so forth. Everything about what we say and do, how we behave and respond, appears nonsensical, confusing, and puzzling when looked at from your perspective. This means you give us fuel, try harder to please us, submit to our manipulations, and remain in our grip. It also means that your empathic traits of needing to understand, wanting the truth, being good and decent, and trying to help are catered for. Thus, subconsciously, you are getting something you need from it, even though it is upsetting you, angering you, or frustrating you. Our behavior, lacking any logic in your world, keeps you where we want you, and also caters for your empathic needs, meaning you remain in place. Every time something happens which perplexes you, you will suffer the consequences of our toxic logic. You are hurt, upset, mystified, anxious, and so on. If, however, you apply our toxic logic to what has happened, you will work out why it has happened. It is not always easy to do. It takes time to work it out. It takes discipline and repeated application in a way that is alien to you. You will not like it. You will not approve, but you will understand. Once you start to understand, you gain control. Once you start to understand, the toxic effects of being confused, bewildered, and lost are ameliorated. Once you understand, you can begin to establish a way to deal with the application of this toxic logic so that the effects become less and less effective. You are then taking your first steps to freedom.